What's up guys, Lvladen here, and today I'm coming at you with a video about what I want to see going into Dragonflight for Paladins, and we'll talk about Ret specifically. Now there's a lot of spells that I believe should carry forward from Shadowlands, and that we've seen carry forward for a lot of other classes, including Covenant abilities and Legendary powers. Now for Ret Paladin in particular, the biggest concern I have for the talent tree is seeing Final Verdict show up somewhere. Now, for those of you that played during Warlords of Draenor, we had Final Verdict as a talent. A lot of people loved it. Personally, I didn't play Final Verdict all that much. I played Empowered Seals, but both talents were amazing, and both talents disappeared going into Legion. And that felt very bad. And it will feel very jarring, again, if we lose Final Verdict. I wouldn't care so much about the increased damage rather than the increased range. If we get a talent extending the range of Templar's Verdict by 10 yards, doesn't even have to have the proc of Hammer of Wrath, I will be satisfied. I enjoyed the range component of Final Verdict more than any other part of the ability itself, and it has been a staple of Shadowlands the entire expansion, and moving forward without it would be a shame. So that is my number one request for Ret Paladin, is seeing Final Verdict show up. Number two would be addressing mobility spells going into Dragonflight from Shadowlands. Now, I like to think of WoW expansions in eras. We have Vanilla through Wrath, we have Kata through WoD, and we have Legion through Shadowlands. Now, in all the iterations of the expansions, the Legion BFA Shadowlands version of Ret has been the least mobile of the three versions, in my opinion. Mostly because we lost our Magic Cleanse to get out of Roots. We lost Emancipate, Double Freedom, Pursuit of Justice, Long Arm of the Law. A lot of the mobility utility that we had as a Ret Paladin was pruned in Legion, and very, very, very slowly we've been getting a few things back. So for example, when they put Unbound Freedom in the game, that was very nice. When double Steed Charge got put in the game, that was okay. I still very rarely, if ever, take Cavalier. Going forward into Dragonflight, I would like to see the Steed either be retired or be an optional mobility talent where we get some sort of baseline movement speed increase, whether that's Long Arm of the Law or Pursuit of Justice. We have had a very small increase in mobility through the use of Light's Barding, which makes Steed almost usable. The only problem is that it does not remove or suppress slow movements, slow speeds, and root effects. The other movement speed increase that we've received is Echoing Blessings. Now, Echoing Blessings for the vast majority of people does not increase your speed that much, right? But at a 278 conduit, plus your speed gems, you can move roughly 26% faster after you cancel the freedom. Now, this is, of course, with the 5% movement speed gem and the Shadowlands straddling agate, something like that. I forget what the gem's called. But you do get a decently increased movement speed when your freedom fades. Decently increased movement speed. That's not proper English. You move faster, okay? You guys get what I'm saying. But it's not the largest increase. But we need something related to freedom and movement speed, passive movement speed increase. You could even put Speed of Light, I think that's the name of the ability, which is basically just the better version of Steed from back in the day. That could come back, but regardless, I want to see some change to Steed and some change to passive movement speed increases for Ret. Emancipate, please, but I know that's probably never coming back because that was really, really good. Now let's talk about what we can take from Prot and Holy. Prot Paladin, probably my favorite tanking spec in the game of all time. Back in the day, when Wrath of the Lich King came out, also the expansion that I started, I played a horrible hybrid mix of Ret Prot. And let me tell you, I just took every stam, every armor talent possible just to become tanky in PvP, because I thought, oh, you have more HP? It looks like you have more gear and people aren't going to target you, or you'll survive more. Like, no. That's not exactly how it worked. But regardless, Prot, an old-time favorite, and surprisingly, it doesn't have too many things, I think, that it could offer Ret outside of getting Guardian of Forgotten Queen, which I don't think they would trade that up, if I'm being honest, to Ret. That would be really, really OP. But what I do think would be reasonable to split between the specs is Blessing of Spell Warding. Now, this is a prot-specific talent that I've been begging for Ret for a while now, because Ret, historically and currently, is very, very weak into caster cleaves. And Spell Warding changes the physical damage component of Blessing of Protection to magic damage. Very cool talent. I would love to have it. And I don't think there's really too many other talents that are split between Ret, Holy, and Prot. Now, the whole first row, if I'm going to guess, is going to be scrapped outside of Holy Shield, going into the new talent system. Maybe there'll be something like double judgment charges, but again, I doubt it. Anything related to Avenger Shield, I doubt is going to be in the triple spec Paladin talent tree, which means like the Paladin talent tree that all 3 specs can pull from. Blind, Repent, Hodge. This is already baseline, so I'm assuming that this will be in the talent tree between all the Paladins. Cavalier, Unbreakable Spirit, that's split. There's very few things that Ret could pull from Holy and Prot that it could benefit from. Consecrated Ground, I kind of doubt that that's going to be there. Hand of the Protector, that's already similar to Ret's Word of Glory, Healing Talent, Righteous Protector. Yeah, none of these really would be able to benefit, would benefit either Holy or Ret by being in the tri-spec talent. Now let's go over the PvP talents. Sacred Duty, reducing the cooldowns on your blessings. That would be cool for Ret. Again, that's a PvP talent, so who knows if this is going to be split or not. Shield of Virtue. I don't think they're going to be going back to the weapon swapping talents. I just don't think so. Think of, Shield Wall for Arms and Fury. That would be really cool if that was split in the talents again, but I doubt it. I doubt it. Now, Steed of Glory would be the only redeeming talent for the old pony, the old Divine Steed. If we don't see Steed of Glory being for all 3 specs going forward, then yeah, I'm definitely on board with scrapping the pony, or at least making it a optional talent with better mobility options or other mobility options. But again, we already talked about the mobility. Basically, what Steed of Glory does is it makes your steed last longer without a conduit, and also suppresses the movement speed effects. Now, it also knocks people back, which is hilarious. If Steed of Glory was baseline for all 3 talent specs, that would be it, dude. Divine Steed would be a legitimate mobility spell. Hilarious, because it would just be a knock-up. Like, think about that. If Ret had a knock-up, that'd be pretty cool. Holy had a knock-up, and I don't think it'd be like that OP either, right? Still a 45-second cooldown. You'd still have to talent twice into it. You'd have to talent into Cavalier to get 2 charges, and you'd have to talent into Steed of Glory. There's many different ways that they could make the Divine Steed better going forward. Now let's talk about Holy. So Holy, in its talents, currently does not have anything that it could really spread between Prots or Ret that would make much sense. Like, of course, we have the Fist of Justice, Repent, Blinding Light Robe, but again, that's currently shared between Prot and Ret already. You have the Cavalier, you have Unbreakable Spirit. These are all shared between Prot and Ret and Holy already. So there's not much here, to be honest. There's Divine Purpose, that's already shared. Holy Avenger, shared. Seraphim, shared. And outside of those currently already shared talents, nothing would make sense for Ret to take from this row. Like, maybe Bestow Faith? I kind of doubt it. All right. So there are other spells that would make sense to split between Prot and Ret. And those include spells that they used to have, meaning Aura Mastery. Back in the day, all 3 talent specs had Aura Mastery. They also had access to Divine Protection. Now, Divine Protection is my number 1 request out of Holy for Ret to receive and Prot to receive. Prot already has its version of Divine Protection, but Ret does not. And I would take Divine Protection over Shield of Vengeance any day. Any day. Shield of Vengeance is such a poor defensive CD. It disappears instantly. What Ret really could use to improve moving forward would be a percentage of damage reduction, like 20%. I believe Divine Protection back in the day used to be 40%. I could be wrong, but I thought it was 40%. But a 1 minute cooldown, 20% damage reduction, fantastic. I'd take this. Ore Mastery, I take Ore Mastery. That's a cool spell that could be split between the Paladin specs. That would make sense. Stuff like Holy Shock wouldn't really make sense. All specs already have access to Word of Glory, so that wouldn't really, talents regarding Word of Glory procs for Avenging Wrath. Not sure if those would make too much sense. Beacon of Faith, not sure if that makes too much sense either. Same with Light of the Martyr, but yeah. This just goes to show that really not much between Prot and Holy would make sense to split between the Paladin specs. So what I'm thinking that we're going to see is a lot of talents in the tri-spec going to blessings. Like, we're going to be pulling our blessings out of the talent tree, and it's just the way that we modify those blessings is the way that Blizzard is going to make them interesting. Stuff like Blessing of Spell Warding or Ultimate Sacrifice coming from the PvP talent. Coming from the PvE talent tree. There are a few ways that they could spice it up because there are not many spells that would fit into Rhett's toolkit from Prot or Holy. Lastly, what we're going to talk about is the Covenant abilities moving forward. So, what I think will happen in Dragonflight is we're probably going to see 2 Covenant abilities, and there are ways that we see all the Covenant abilities, but if I had to predict which ones were going to show up, I'd say Divine Toll and hopefully Vanquisher's Hammer. I know the Venthyr Covenant ability has been very popular for other talent specs, especially in PvE, but I don't think many people really enjoy that ability, right? It's the least interactive of all the Covenants. And Night Fae moving forward, if I had to predict that Night Fae would be in there, it'd probably be just the Blessing of Summer portion, and they'd probably rename it to something like Blessing of Might, where it's like a 30-second or 15-second cooldown, duration with a 45-second cooldown. But one thing that they really have to pay attention to moving forward is not forgetting the legendaries and not forgetting the conduits that make these abilities good. Because a lot of the abilities, they are very... I keep saying very, but they suck without their legendary or their conduit. For example, the non-legendary version, non-conduit version of Vanquisher's Hammer does like 2k damage, 2.5k damage, and it also does not give you the double charge of the Vanquisher's Hammer. So some of these abilities suck without their borrowed power attachments, and they are borrowed power in themselves. Obviously, Ring and Clarity is pretty insane for Divine Toll. Equinox is really, really good for the Night Fae version of Paladin. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know too much about the Venthyr. I don't even know the name of the Venthyr spell. I have not played it like more than once the entire expansion because it's just not good in PvP. But maybe people do enjoy it in PvE and they could rename it something, or they could transform Consecration for other specs to function kind of like the current Venthyr Paladin talent. But, guys, moving forward, I bet you anything that we see Divine Toll, and then maybe one other Covenant spell. Maybe it's Blessing of Summer, renamed Blessing of Might. Maybe it's Vanquisher's Hammer, renamed to something else. I just really hope that they don't forget the conduits and the legendaries that make these spells good. All right. Guys, if you enjoyed, let me know in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on what you think will happen with the Red Paladin and the overall Paladin talent tree moving forward into Dragonflight Alpha. And also, let me know in the comments what you would like to see. Because a lot of these spells that we split between the classes will probably end up being our blessings. And I'm not sure how they are going to alter it to make them new and interesting, such as giving Ultimate Sacrifice to all specs, or Blessing of Spell Warding to all specs, but I hope it's something along the lines of that, and also I'm crossing my fingers for Final Verdict and some more mobility for Red Paladin. Alright guys, I'll see you all next video. Peace.